morning, welcome to a chilly winter garden. And as I mentioned a few weeks ago, although the mornings are quite cold, during the day it's lovely and pleasant. It's quite enjoyable to be out here, and I even noticed on the news that they mentioned we're receiving higher than average temperatures, so we are being completely spoilt. Well, this week I did a few of those mundane winter jobs, like clearing up areas that I was kind of ignoring from summertime. You know, I think everyone kind of has some, or maybe it's just me. The piles of pots, trays, half full bags of potting mix just lying around in different areas. So I made a start in clearing them up, and that was all it really was, a start, because I have a lot to do. Anyway, in this week's garden update, I'm going to harvest the dipper gourds that are hanging on the orange tree in the chicken coop area. I'll also show you a bit of work that I've been doing on the chicken coop. I did a bit of renovating for them. That's very basic, but I'll show you anyway. So please just sit back, relax for a few minutes, and let me show you around. I think it's about time that I go down to the chicken run area and harvest those dipper gourds that have been hanging there for months. You might notice I still haven't replaced the calendula seedlings here. And look at this Mexican sunflower is still hanging in there despite us getting a few frosts. It's looking pretty scraggly at the moment. You hear the roosters, they're all competing with each other. Yeah, it's looking a bit scraggly, but you know what, as long as I have a few flowers like this, I'm going to just leave it in here because, you know, it's winter now. I'm not seeing much colour in the garden, and any little bit that's here is fantastic. I just can't get over how this African blue basil down here is still looking really nice and healthy, even with a few flowers here and there. This is a perennial basil. It's actually a hybrid, a cross between the camphor basil and the dark opal basil. I mentioned before ages ago that it makes a really nice filler for flower arrangements. So the only way that you can propagate this basil is by cuttings, because it's actually sterile. You can't grow it from seed. I'm going to grow a lot more of this plant in my garden this summer for lots of different reasons. It's drought tolerant, edible, attracts the pollinators, and look how pretty it looks too. I could just imagine one of these plants at the front of each row along here, and then on the other side along here you'll have the wild rocket with its yellow flowers, a bit of clash in colour I guess with yellow and purple, but I might give it a try this summer. Something else has caught my eye here. I know I said I was going to enter to get the dipper gourds, but before we head in there, I did want to show you this. Do you remember I planted this from seed last spring? This is the cotton plant. I did it as a bit of experiment. I wasn't sure whether it would grow here in my climate, and I don't know, I didn't get any cotton off it, but I'm letting it just stay here, and hopefully now we'll make it through the winter. I had planned on putting like something around it, like enclosing it or digging it up, but I've decided to leave it here. I don't know, I feel like this is like a little microclimate in my garden, because despite the frost it looks pretty good. It has a bit of yellowing. I'm not sure what that's all about. Sorry, I got distracted. My neighbour said hi to me. I always feel mad like I'm talking to myself, or they think I'm talking to myself when I'm recording videos. Anyway, we'll just watch this space and see what happens with this plant. Hi girls, I'm just coming in here to get the dipper gourds. There's Mr. Rooster again. He's still with us. I think he'll be heading off soon. His owner will find a new home for him. This is going to be fun, having to get down here to harvest them. I just hope there's no stink bugs on this orange tree. I know these are ready to harvest because if you look at the top there, the stem has turned brown. Oh, it didn't even drop. Wow, this one's huge. I think the tree's going to be pretty happy that I'm doing this because they seem to be weighing it down a little bit. Oh, that one just fell off. I have those 2 large ones and then there's a couple of smaller ones here. Oh, it's like a jungle. I'm glad that's done. I'm gonna get out of here now. Okay, so I got out of there. Here we go. Here's the 4 dipper gourds. So you might remember earlier on, a few months ago, I did harvest one of them. I still have one hanging on the outside of the chicken run area. I feel like there's stuff crawling around my hair. I'm probably just imagining it. So these dipper gourds, I originally thought that they were going to be, oh wait, I have to put this down. Sorry about that. I still get creeped out by insects and different types of bugs, even though I'm a gardener. I check my hair and I don't think there's anything in it, thank goodness. But back in spring when I transplanted the seedling for this plant, I thought it was actually a birdhouse gourd, but it turned out to be this one here, which strangely I never bought seeds for, so this is quite a surprise. What I'm going to do with these, it's my first time ever growing them, so I had to check it up on the internet. I need to, for the first week, keep them separated, rotating them every day and making sure they're nice and dry. And then I think they take about 8 weeks before they're fully dried out. I have to keep an eye on them for mold. I did notice this one there has a few scratches, so I'm not sure how well that will go. That was probably maybe the chickens that did that. The plan with these is to use them as a decorative garden ornament, I guess you'd say. I'm going to sand them back and maybe paint them or something, and I will make some large ladles with these 2 here. That's what they're originally used for, as kitchen utensils, or at least that's what I read. I think people also use it as a musical instrument as well. I'm just going to have to look more into it. But it's quite exciting that I grew these, something a bit different. I always like trying new and unusual edibles and different types of crops in the garden. This week I set up this extension to the chicken coop. It's an extra 3 meters added on to their coop. Now that we have 4 chickens, even though, you know, the recommendations is that this area here is sufficient for them, I wanted to give them a little bit more space for when we go away on our, you know, family holidays and stuff. And just to be clear, every single day I always let them out and they have this huge area that they can roam around. A few years ago when we first got our first 2 chickens, I did let them free range around the entire garden, which I did for about 9 months, but it just got too hard. They kept on digging up all the seedlings, so I fenced off this section that they're in now. It's a really big area and they seem pretty happy. Don't you, Autumn? How about you, Snowflake? And along the edge, like what I did in the other area, I put this mesh here, and I've put some little metal rods in there in the ground to anchor it in place, and I've tied it onto the chicken run area as well, just to make it really secure for them. The last thing I would ever want to happen to them is a fox to come and, you know, take them, so that should keep some predators out of the way. Here's the upcycled bird bath that I spoke about last week. I still haven't put it in its permanent place yet. So for the base, they're actually made up out of cable reels that my friend was throwing out after some renovation that she did. The top section was a broken plastic tub that I cut down to size, and then on the outside, I know it's a little bit random, but I stuck on bits and pieces that I had you know, underneath the house, from old toys to pacifier lids and markers that don't work anymore. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, but I just wanted to see if I could make use out of random objects that I had that would otherwise probably get thrown out. And on that note, I'm going to say goodbye to you for this week, and I'll see you all again next Friday.